Hare Krishna, welcome to our channel, Bhagavad-gita, here it is, because we have Bhagavad-gita as it is, translation and commentary by His Divine Grace A.C. Bhaktivedanta Swami Prabhupada. My name is Lavanga Latika. We are starting off the 14th chapter. We're going to learn about 3 modes of material nature. Stay with us.
Shri Guru Shri Juta Padakamalang.
So, today, the chapter is not very long, and we're going to be a little bit structured here, of course, because Krishna is very structured also. And today we're reading text 6 that speaks about sattvam, the mode of goodness. Tatra sattvang nirmalatvat prakashakam anamayam sukha sangena badhnati jnana sangena chanagha. O sinless one, so Krishna is still speaking to Arjuna, which is the main part of Bhagavad-gita, is Krishna speaking to Arjuna, but here and there we get some questions from Arjuna's side, and we get some other perspective also. But today we have Krishna. O sinless one, the mode of goodness, being purer than the others, is illuminating, and it frees one from all sinful reactions. Those situated in that mode become conditioned by a sense of happiness and knowledge. Purport. The living entities conditioned by material nature are of various types. One is happy, another is very active, and another is helpless. Oh, that is interesting, because it's hard to just use one word for each of these modes, because they're a little subtle, and they're more, it's not a thing, it's more like a category, or a perspective of on existence. But yes, mode of goodness, you're happy. And that's a strange thing to say, because we very often don't understand happiness. We think happiness comes when we achieve something. And that's not really true. Enjoyment can come from that, or a position can come from that, or but not happiness. It comes from within, and happiness is closer to the actual nature of the soul, Satchitananda Vigraha. That's the spiritual nature of us, of our inner person. That spirit soul is Satchitananda, Sat eternal, Chit full of knowledge, and Ananda blissful. Vigraha, and we're a person, we have form. And that's sometimes hard to understand, because it's not always that happiness is the first emotion we experience in this world, especially when we come in contact with everything else in this world. It can be very complicated and very much friction and frustration. But the soul in and of itself, when there are no external disturbances, when there are no conditioning, because we're conditioned in this world, we're conditioned to identify with this body, and then we are conditioned by the 3 modes of nature, because everything in this world is made up of a combination of these modes, and depending on which mode is more prominent, that will color our experience, our existence. So mode of goodness is the best one, because it's the closest thing to the soul, and it's the purest one. So when we're in the mode of goodness, we're happy. And in a mode of passion, one is very active. It doesn't necessarily lead to something good. I've seen this like a little comic drawing. A man is sitting in a tree, and he's very energetically sawing off the branch he's sitting on, and then somebody comes and says, "Have you noticed?" And then he's like, "Don't bother me, I'm almost done here." So that's very often activity in the mode of passion. We don't know where they lead to, and not always do they lead to something good. And another is helpless. So mode of ignorance is a sense of hopelessness. There's a sense of laziness. There's a sense of destructiveness even. And that mode binds us very strongly. I'm going to remember this. I'm reading these books and I see things that are fantastic, and I'm thinking, I'm going to exactly remember this one. Then I don't always, but we come back to it again. One is happy, one is very active, and another is helpless. All these types of psychological manifestations are causes of the entity's conditioned status in nature. How they are differently conditioned is explained in this section of the Bhagavad-gita. The mode of goodness is first considered. The effect of developing the mode of goodness in the material world is that one becomes wiser than those otherwise conditioned. A man in the mode of goodness is not so much affected by material miseries, and he has a sense of advancement in material knowledge. The representative type is the Brahmana, who is supposed to be situated in the mode of goodness. This sense of happiness is due to understanding that, in the mode of goodness, one is more or less free from sinful reactions. Actually, in the Vedic literature, it is said that in the mode of goodness, the mode of goodness means greater knowledge and a greater sense of happiness. So that is the main thing. Because in order to have knowledge, we have to be a little bit quiet, a little bit peaceful. Because it's very often, I've seen that, it's interesting. Sometimes people come and they want to ask us about Krishna consciousness, and then they come with a list of questions that they prepared in advance. And sometimes those questions are very interesting and very deep, and sometimes they're quite superficial. And sometimes they're based on a completely false idea of what Krishna consciousness is. And then, if you get into just answering question by question, you don't really get anywhere because you don't get out of that mindset. And then sometimes you have to step back and say, look, I know you have these questions, but let me give you the bigger picture first, and then we can come back to your list of questions. And in the mode of goodness, you have that sense, you have that patience, you have that ability to step back, to listen, to get a sense of the thing, because you're not driven by achieving something all the time, and you're also not knocked out by hopelessness and despair. So it's a good thing to aspire for, and it's kind of a standard for knowledge in the material world. Knowledge and happiness. Yes. The difficulty here is that when a living entity is situated in a mode of goodness, he becomes conditioned to feel that he is advanced in knowledge and is better than others. In this way he becomes conditioned. The best example are the scientist and the philosopher. Each is very proud of his knowledge, and because they generally improve their living conditions, they feel a sort of material happiness. This sense of advanced happiness in conditioned life makes them bound by the mode of goodness of material nature. Yeah. That's also interesting, that feeling of being better than others. And we sometimes see that in religious people, and we also sometimes see that in people who do good. And that is a bit of an illusion, because ultimately we're all spirit souls. We're all exactly the same. We're not, there's not an, how to say, homogeneous mass. There is individuality. We are individual persons. We will have a little bit of different view or mode or like that. But it's not that one is better than the other. Present, we are inhabiting different bodies, and these bodies may be more or less conducive to a good life, and our karma may give us a more or less good situation in this world. And these modes of nature, more mode of goodness, there will be more knowledge, and then we can look around and look at I don't know who said that, against stupidity the gods fight in vain. That's a Swedish quote. Somebody famous said that. I can't remember who. So this ignorance, foolishness, stupidity, they are very difficult to meet in this world, and you want to kind of assist a little bit, like open your eyes, get like a better perspective of existence. You can't always do that, because everyone here, they're kind of like in their own little universe and their own little conditioning. It doesn't mean that we are innately good or bad, better or worse. We all have the same existence of Satchitananda Vigraha, but we come in different bodies, we come with different karma, we come with different conditioning at different points in our journey in this world. Yeah. So we're speaking here, Prabhupada speaks of the scientist and the philosopher. They are attracted toward working in the mode of goodness, and as long as they have an attraction for working in that way, They have to take some type of body in the modes of nature. Thus there is no likelihood of liberation or of being transferred to the spiritual world. Repeatedly one may become a philosopher, a scientist, or a poet, and repeatedly become entangled in the same disadvantages of birth and death. But due to the illusion of the material energy, one thinks that that sort of life is pleasant. Yes. So we want to, this chapter helps us to understand the layers of existence in this world. And then we are also reminded we're not of this world. So that's the mode of goodness. Yes. I will say, we're going to go through it in the order that Krishna speaks, and we're going to follow the comments of Prabhupada. I will say immediately here that when it comes to spiritual life, when it comes to Krishna consciousness, there is often this thing that it's difficult to keep two concepts in the mind simultaneously. So we will try to do that. We have the material existence where we understand the difference between the mode of goodness, mode of passion, and mode of ignorance. We will understand who is a Brahmana and who is of a different quality in this world. We will understand that working according to one's dharma, which is also a mode of goodness in a sense, because that means peacefully doing your prescribed duty, which keeps you peaceful and it keeps the world peaceful. These things are good in a material sense, and they are a good foundation for spiritual life also, because anything that is not mode of goodness will be mode of passion and ignorance, that we will go further into the next verses that come here, and they will be actively problematic. They will present obstacles for a person who is pursuing spiritual life. So yes, let's find that situation in the mode of goodness, but let also remember that the other aspect of existence is the spiritual fact that we are not this body, we are spirit soul. And as long as we become attached to this world, as long as we stay in the bodily concept of life, identifying with this body, then even if we live a very good life and we only do the good activities that create only the good karma, still it binds us in this world. So one idea is to be a little bit nihilistic, and I think as a young person, which is a long time ago, I kind of had that impulse to kind of give up this world, give up things. They were not so meaningful. They weren't leading anywhere. And anyway, I had some form of good enough karma to live a life that wasn't difficult, wasn't problematic. But obviously, without adding a spiritual process, in this way, one will just burn up the good karma and then leave this body not having added anything good, and then maybe accidentally added something bad. So this word is very complicated. Karma is very complicated, and it is good to understand this dharma, this situation, all of that. But the main understanding must be, I'm not this body. I'm the eternal servant of Krishna. How do I best use this world? How do I best use this life when I am a human being, when I've come in contact with Bhagavad-gita, when I have gotten to know about Krishna? How do I best use this life? So the best way is to find out how to find that level of life, of activity. So we will hear about what to eat, how to act. Let's find the activities in the mode of goodness, but let's not become attached to the mode of goodness, because that is also of this material world, and we have something that's even better, and it is our original life in the spiritual world. Thank you so much. We will continue to go through this chapter, and it is actually very interesting, and I'm really happy you're here with me. Hare Krishna.
Thank you for watching. We aim for updates every Tuesday and Friday. Please come back. If you have any questions or comments, please leave them down there. We also have some links and information for you. And there is, of course, the subscribe button. Thank you. Hare Krishna.
I'm a Hare Krishna, and I approve this message. Subscribe.
Hare Krishna Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare,